Now Windows things. I can't come on. Come on. What you say? Don't be shy. Just feel it and feel free. I know you can't have a good time. We about to get started. We about to get loose. We about to do what we came to do. All right, all right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, all right. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Today is December 3rd. Look at me. I do this every time the music just comes from nowhere. And my computer is going to die. So let's just start this off on the right foot. Somehow I unplugged it while I was sitting here. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Today is the second day of December, which is the 12th month. It is 10 p.m. on a Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern. My name is William Bryant Miles, but you can call me WBM, which means you are watching what? The Wonderful World of WBM. Yeah, 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 yeah. As you can see, I am barefaced. I don't know if you guys saw Keke Palmer shared with the world that she was having some issues with her skin, and she showed us a picture of her as she was. And so that was my inspiration. I've talked about it here before. I suffer from eczema. Between stress levels, I thought I said it's the second day of the 12th month. That's what I thought I said. But if I didn't, today is December 2nd. My skin suffers. I have skin issues. And so I just wanted to stand in solidarity with her. And so today's episode, I'm not doing no makeup. I'm not doing anything. Did I say the third? I'm over here talking to some Miranda Anderson in the comments. So I'm over here. If you're just now joining us on Instagram, you should probably head over to YouTube. Link is in the bio, because I'm going to be leaving you guys really soon. Today's show, just a heads up, today's show is all about the undoing. That's all I want to talk about. If you haven't seen it, then you should probably log off right now because there's spoilers. I actually wrote a monologue, and so I'm going to start the show off with the monologue. I don't think I'm going to do the monologue, but let's try it. I finally set up the damn Apple TV so I could watch The Undoing. Side note, Roku and HBO, can y'all work out y'all issues? It is very upsetting to me and my homegirls. Thank God I scammed Apple out of a free 4K Apple TV earlier this year. Otherwise, I would have been truly what? Short. Anyhow, I finally got that thing set up and watched the show that folks everywhere were talking about. Actually, I'm such a terrible actor. I only realized this was a show during the holiday weekend when everybody was tweeting about it and even setting up rooms on Clubhouse. Can't tell y'all what Clubhouse is because rule number 1 of Fight Club is to never talk about Fight Club. By the way, how was your Thanksgiving? That was like 3 beats ago. Did you host a super spreader event or nah? As for me, I had an intimate and socially distanced family gathering. It was hella weird, but I mean, what is not these days? So anyway, I saw everyone talking about The Undoing and I joined in on the fun on Monday, late to the party as usual, but I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. I gave you my all, so baby mine. Anyway, this is the part where I say, I already said it, but major spoilers for The Undoing ahead. If you haven't already watched and you care about me ruining things, this is where you should turn the channel. But first, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell notification. Anyway, so The Undoing. Wait, people saying still eating turkey. That's gross. If you're still eating turkey today, I hope you don't get sick. Like, first of all, aside from just being mentally tired of it, you'd have been better off freezing it. And if you straight up eating it like straight out not out the can, but straight out the pan, like you're still eating roast turkey, you haven't turned it into a soup, I'm judging you. Like, turkey salad with curry, nope. Turkey salad, I feel like, y'all, it's Wednesday. Right. So tomorrow marks, so this is the seventh day. Like Thanksgiving was the first day. This is the seventh day. And even on the seventh day, he rested. So I feel like turkey salad was like Saturday. Because Friday, you're just going to eat leftovers, right? You're just going to have another plate from the night before, like of the meal as it was the day before. Saturday, you might be like, ugh, I feel really bad throwing this whole turkey away. So let me just go ahead and turn it into like a turkey salad or something. And then Sunday, if you still have some, that's going to be a turkey chili or turkey soup. After that, we're done. Somebody said leftovers are good for 2 weeks. Okay, y'all. I'm built different, I guess. So, like I was saying, the undoing peak whiteness, but like the good kind, not to be racist or nothing, but I think whiteness is a dish best served scalding hot or icy cold, meaning I want my white ladies rich as hell on the Upper East Side, like Nicole Kidman in pretty much everything, or I want them dirt poor, like Honey Boo Boo, rest in peace. Oh wait, Mama June didn't die. My bad. The undoing. So yeah, that was my opening monologue. It's incomplete, like so many things in my life. But you know what's not incomplete? I finished a mural in my bathroom. I'm really proud of myself. I took magazines from like, I think the oldest one had to be at least 10 years old. You know what I mean? It's 2020. I took magazines from like 10 years worth of magazines. And I got sad as I was throwing them away because I mean, those magazines have been chopped and screwed first for my like people I use them for vision boards. Like I was bequeathed them from my roommate. Not because she died, but because she moved away and left them. And so maybe it wasn't bequeathed. I inherited them. And so I made a collage. It's at least 100 images of all different kinds of things. I mean, like foods, landscapes, playbills, pictures of important people from history and people that I know personally and love and care about. But what was so interesting to me as I was throwing them away, I got a little sad and I stopped myself from throwing away the second half of the lot because so a lot of the magazines were like Ebony and Essence, Jet. That's it, right? Like and Black Enterprise, there were some Black Enterprises in there. I mean, there also were GQ and a bunch of other like mainstream or white titles. And I just got really sad because I was like, wow. Because at first, my whole thing was like, oh, well, throw it away. It's history. All that information's online. And I can like create some new, build it back and build it back up. But then I realized like, I really can't. Like, I mean, Essence and Jet is not a magazine. Jet is not a magazine anymore. Like that just does not exist. It's not in publication. Ebony is technically still being published, but it is not. It is a shadow of its former self, which was in some ways a shadow of its former self. You know what I mean? Like obviously, obviously the peak days of any magazine are long gone. That's just like in terms of printed. But Ebony, was trying some really interesting things. And full disclosure, I was a part of some of that, right? I've been published in that publication and on that website. But now it's like, I don't even know who's on the cover. I can tell you anybody that was on like the last 6 covers, or if they even have covers. And then so too is true for Essence. And so it just made me sad to realize that like probably in 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if neither one of those magazines exists. And then Black Enterprise, I don't know how they're still open. Well, I know that like they do like events and stuff, and that was kind of keeping the lights on. But me and Black Enterprise fell out not fell out, but it wasn't for me because I don't want to open a McDonald's franchise for one. And two, they sent me the same magazine twice. Well, it wasn't the same magazine, but 2 months they had the same fucking cover lines. It wasn't the cover story, but it was like these, one of the feature story rather, but it was on the cover. And I was just very much like, okay, wow, y'all are really serious. Not to mention it was saddle stitched, just a little staple in the middle for like 32 pages. It's very disappointing, very sad. Yeah, and that's that on that. So how did we get there? Oh, so yeah, completion. But the mural is quite nice. And when I do my feature in I don't think I'd be Architectural Digest, but maybe New York Times Magazine, and they come and they sit with the artist in his home. I think that would be one of the images they show. I'm very excited about it. Someone said keep one of each and release the rest. Maybe I should go through and find like which ones are most interesting. This is separate, of course, from the several issues I'm featured in, humble brag. Or my work is featured in, not me. And build it up. So The Undoing, I watched all episodes in one sitting in one day on Monday. So to me, it felt like a movie. And I don't know how I would have felt about the show if I had to come back week after week. I think in some ways it would have been really thrilling because the show was well crafted. Like, and let's just call it the thing. The show was very well executed, right? Like, it looked good. They shot it on location in New York. New York City looked amazing. It looked authentic. I believed everything about it. The Reardon School is not a real school, but I believed it was, like everything about it, their homes, everything about it was like, and I am only tangentially connected. Have you ever done a Rubik's Cube? I know that I can't do this, but let's try. I'm only tangentially connected to that world. I'm not even, and by tangentially, I mean, I went to a public school, but it was a selected public school. And I have some friends from high school who lived in those beautiful towers. But so I have some questions though. And some of my questions are actually very just straightforward. How much do you think she charged per hour? She being Grace as the therapist, because it seemed like she was the only person in her practice, but maybe not, because just because we only saw her and her assistant doesn't mean that there wasn't someone else at the practice. But I'm like, that was a really nice office. Her home was really nice. Obviously, she came from family money as well. But, she was doing her part to keep things going, A. So I wanted to know that. B, I'm curious, how much do y'all think she charged? $250 an hour? I don't think it was that low. That's not that much. Because if you do the math on that, $250 an hour, let's say she works 5 hours a day. 5 times 25 is what? $125. So she's making $1,250. Yeah, $1,250 a day. $1,250 times 5 is what? $1,250 times 2 is $2,500. 25 times 5. She's making $6,250 a month. My math is off, but you guys get what I'm saying. Let me do the math on this. Let me just actually pull out my handy dandy Apple iPhone, not sponsored. Let's try this again and build it up. Now, first I have to figure out, I'm like an old person, where does the calculator live? There it is. So we said, so y'all saying $250 an hour times, let's say she worked 35 hours a week. $87.50 a week, that's not a lot of money, times 4.3 weeks in a month. That's $37,000 a month. That's a decent amount of money, times 12 months in a year. $451,000. Okay, maybe that's right. I still think it's more than that though, because it's like from that she had to pay herself, she has to pay her insurances, she has to pay her assistant, right? She has to pay the rent on that office. So, but then again, I don't know, because let's say so like taxes, well, this is her net for the business. So I'm not an accountant, by the way. If you're watching this here in accounting, you're probably going to cringe. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about for real. But she, so let's say that like she pays where that office is, she's probably paying like $5,000 a month in rent. So that's $60,000. More than that. But I'm gonna be kind. I'm gonna say she's paying $60,000 in rent. I messed up. Wait. So we said 225 times 35 equals, no, we said 250 times, oh my gosh, 250 times 30. Wait, clear. Let's start over. All clear. And does AC mean all clear or air conditioning on the calculator? So 250 times 35 equals times 4.3 equals, and did y'all know there's 4.3 weeks in a month, not 4 weeks? Did you guys know that? I learned that living in the UK. So somebody taking notes. Who wants to be my scribe? Times 12. So we pulling at 451. This is backwards, but 451,500 in rent. That's her gross. So she got to pay $60,000 in rent. I think she's paying more than that though. On a commercial lease, she's probably paying like $10,000 a month. But that office also, it could have just been the way they shot it, right? Like it's like, You just walk in, it's an office. I'm gonna just say $5,000. I'm gonna say 5,000. So minus 60,000. $5,000 a month for rent, which is 60,000. To be clear, she charges way more than $250. That's what I said. I think she's charging maybe $500 an hour. I think she's charging $500. So let's just go back to that. Now that I got somebody to hype me up, you also have to remember she's not working all day. Exactly. She probably only bills out for like 4 hours a day, right? Like, because she's probably in there for an hour. She's probably there 4 hours. But so how many hours? Patricia's saying she probably only works a few days a week. Well, I think that she gives me the vibes that she works a lot. Like, she gives me work hard vibes, workaholic vibes. So I think she's probably billing out for like 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is so funny because it's like, actually, Patricia, we're gonna end up at the same place then, right? If you say $500 for 20 hours, and then we say, so this is the other thing, like these are little hints into how much she was making, right? Because they wanted her to give up some of her time in the auction. So that means that it had to be worth something. I mean, that was partly in jest, but that also means that it had to be worth, like when you donate something to a charity auction, right? Like you have to expect that it's going to go for far less than it is worth, right? You know, even though people are bidding just for the sake of charity, like in those fancy rooms, they're bidding just to donate. And then like, oh, I get something in exchange. So it's like, if you only charge $200 an hour, nobody's going to bid more than $200. No one, if you charge $200 an hour, nobody's going to bid more than $150 to win this in the auction, because otherwise they would just buy it for free. So yeah, you said, remember they got a chart and stuff too. She's a clinical psychologist, though. She is not a psychiatrist. So she has to keep records and stuff, but she doesn't have to keep stuff the same way, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm so out of my depth here. I don't think they have to keep records the same way. So like as a psychologist, all I have to do is be like, girl, he don't like you, you don't like him, be blessed. And I need to remember enough to not lose my license and to document what happened. But it's not the same as like a medical doctor who has to keep like records, making this all up. So let's just say it determines if she takes notes during the session. She didn't have a notepad. All she had was her phone, which she had set up just to get the message from the school. And so like collectively, how much are we saying that she makes? How many hours per week are we saying? Can we agree on 20 hours, 20 billable hours per week, which averages to about 4 hours of a 5-day week, or 3 long days, right? Like if you do 3 6-hour days, that's 18 hours. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of sessions, because that would be like back-to-back sessions. And she probably also bills you for an hour, but your sessions are probably only 45 minutes. How many clients she has? I think that however many clients she has, her is not germane to this conversation, because I think that she is at capacity, right? So I feel like she is at so whether she has one client who just comes in every day, you know, fills up every hour, or she has 1,000, I think that she is booked, busy, and blessed. So we're assuming that her week is full. Patricia Fitzhugh said, and her hubby ain't worked for 3 months and she was good. Now he borrowed money, but she wasn't hurting on her own. She had her half of that high as hell mortgage. Yeah, no. She's, you know, if there was a mortgage, because daddy may have already bought the house outright to begin with, right? Like clearly, when your daddy can give your husband $500,000 and be like, don't tell your wife I gave you this. And you can also get a helicopter that lands at the same time as the police helicopter. I was gonna say spoiler, but if you still here, you don't care. At the police helicopter, I don't think that you I'm not sure you have a mortgage, although rich people do keep mortgages just because that's how you stay liquid, you know, use other people's money. But I think that they don't have a mortgage, which is why. But you know, that's the New York building, right? So was that a co-op? I can't remember. Were they in the townhouse or were they in the building? Because it looked like granddad was in the building, but which means that he's got co-op fees, which I'm sure are probably more than my rent right now. But also I think that they're so wealthy that I don't think that one property was going to impede their liquidity. Yeah, so townhouse. So then they didn't have any common charges, but they got staff, they got the help. So all that to say, we agree on 20 hours. I'm gonna say $495 an hour. Let's just make it a handbag. So that's $9,900 a week times 4.3. Well, actually, she don't work every week though. She probably worked 48 weeks a year. So let's start that 9,900 times 48 because she take off holidays, blah, 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 blah. She's pulling a smooth 475,200. That number is actually, which is so funny. We did all that finagling. That number is very similar to how much she would make if she charged $250, worked every week. This is like an exercise. Would you rather make $250 an hour, but have to work every day, work 35 hours a week, 52 weeks a year? Or would you rather who would ever choose the former in this instance? It's like, would you rather make $495 an hour and only have to work 20 hours a week for 48 weeks a year? Either way, $475,000, $500,000, not to mention money that is sitting in bank accounts, growing, earning, and increasing, right? You know what I mean? So she pays her rent is probably $60,000 a year. We said $5,000. She's paying. Am I the only person that be getting terrible headaches with do-rags? That's why I got to wear a bonnet. Maybe I'll wear a bonnet in the next video. So we down to $415. Your money go fast this way. And then that assistant all in with like taxes and, so you add like another 23% to his salary. So let's say he makes $75,000. Who's holding these numbers? Somebody remember this number, 415, or I can be that somebody, 415, 200. So if you making, let's say he makes 75K and then times 1.23, so she paying $92.50 for him. I can see some charge $600 a session. And if you could Google them, that means they are, how long is the session? I love how this has just devolved into how much does she make. So then we got to raise, so she got to raise. But let's remember this number, 92,250 is what the assistant makes. I'm pretty sure the session is 45 minutes because that gives them a little bit of grace so that they can get that person in there, pun not intended. They can get that person in and out and prepare for the next person and just start everything on the hour. So if she charged $600 a session, this is going to change things. If you charge $600 a session times, I actually have a friend who pays $500 a session for their therapist. Crazy. $600 a session times 20 hours a week. You're making $12,000 a week. This is easy math now. 12 times 48. Oh, this is all going to be divisible by 4. 576. And then your rent is 60,000. And then your assistant is getting paid 92,000. That includes fringe. That's not all the salary. 92,250. You down to 423. And then let's just add in another, like your accountant. I'm gonna just make that a cool $100,000 for your accountant, your attorneys, insurance, all of that. Like, let's just, supplies, making up a number, a cool $100,000. I messed up the math again. Fuck. So I have to say I have a beef with the iPhone because on the Android, I can do parentheses in the calculator. I can't do that here. So I'm gonna leave that alone because I'm too young to get canceled and too old to try. But how does her clinical psychologist not know her husband is cheating and ain't been working for 3 months? So that's why the name of the book was You Should Have Known, because that's kind of the whole point of the story, is that she should have known. And I read an article, I think it was on Vulture. I can't remember if this was on Vulture or somewhere else. I read a few articles, but this is not my original thought, and I want to be clear about that. She said that, the very first, I believe it's the very first lady that she's working with Top tip, turn the calculator, turn the phone sideways. Wow! The very first lady she works with, she basically, they're saying like she was talking to herself, where it's like, and the dad said this as well, but I'm gonna get to his line in a second. But it's like the relationship you wanted to have is the relationship that you had, not the relationship you had. The relationship you wanted to have, you weren't not having a relationship you're having. You're not seeing the forest for the trees, even though you do it with everything else. But in this one situation with men, you become blind to it. And so it was like, you can diagnose and assess everyone else, but here you become blind. And so what was interesting for me, what I love what her dad said, and I felt attacked, because everything's about me, is when the dad, her dad was Donald Sutherland, excuse me, was like, I'm not sure if he was the perfect man for you or if you told him what perfect was and he decided to be that, or he showed you that. I'm paraphrasing awfully, but I thought that was a really insightful line. And I think a lot of us have been guilty, or at least I know I've been guilty of that, being like, are you perfect for me? Clearly you're not, because who the fuck or where the fuck are you now? But I told you what I wanted and you showed me that. And that's all I saw. Either you hid or I ignored all the other things that you truly were. So you should have known. Yeah. So basically, long story short, she's pulling at least 300 stacks, at least, just in her salary alone, not to mention old money, blah, blah, blah. But 300 stacks is enough to keep a house going. And I read somewhere or heard somewhere, so this may not be true, that like, in those private schools, I believe it to be true because I have enough familiarity. In those private schools, you're eligible for financial aid if you make like 300 or 400. Like if your family's income is less than like, I think like 400 or 300, you are eligible for financial aid. Right. So think about that, right? Like that's how, the school's $50,000. That makes sense. If you only bring in $200,000 or $250,000 as a family, $50,000 for tuition could be quite burdensome. You know what I mean? And burdensome, obviously all of this stuff in context. But so I believe that, so they have to be bringing in at least that, not to mention they were of prestige in the school. So they're, and donating to the school on top of tuition, even though that was daddy. So here's my big issue. My big thing that is still unclear for me. I get that like Jonathan pulled some strings to get Elena into the school, right? But how messy can you get to have your hoe enrolled in your son's school on a scholarship? That's already messy boots. What I did not understand and still do not understand is when she turned up dead, I feel like the very first thing that would have come out is, well, who the fuck wrote her recommendations? How did she get into our world? Because she is not one of us, right? Like, and as I understand those people to be, and this is from my limited experience, having gone, whatever the world I live in, they are very gossipy. Folks talk, secrets don't exist. And I just think that would have come out. And then, especially because, so that would have come out, first of all, right? Like that her family was the family that vouched for it. And then the thing was, yeah, Jonathan is her husband. And, to a certain extent, like, even though he married into it, that's his family now. That is, Bleak said, a sociopath would enjoy that kind of chaos. That is true. But I'm saying from a storytelling perspective, I just felt like that would have immediately come out and then it would have been revealed, like, especially because Donald Sutherland, like when he was talking to the principal, I think the principal easily could have clapped back and been like, yes, you have been, your family has donated tons of money to us, blah, 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 blah. But also your family brought this on to us, right? Like your family brought this lady to us. So had your family not done that, we wouldn't be in this situation, garçon. And so that didn't happen for me, I thought was very interesting. And it just raised a major question. And I felt like that kind of would have shifted the whole tenor of the investigation from jump, because I just think it took too long for that part to be revealed and explained away. So that was like my only critique about that. What other questions did I have? And then the other part was, I get that there are rules and regulations about. Wait, what does this say? Y'all guys are on fire in the comments. Shout out to my friends on YouTube. You guys are really um, making me not feel like I'm sitting in my house by myself. And for that, I thank you. The sociopath thing felt short. This Patricia Fitzhugh. The sociopath thing felt short for me because he came home and cried after he killed her. The empathy everyone said he didn't have. So I'm trying to remember. I don't remember that part, but I think that, was he crying that he killed her or what? But if he's not a sociopath, then what do you think he is? I don't remember him crying. Oh, I know what part you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, Patricia. It's in the first episode. It's in the first episode. You have to remember. It's like before we even knew the murder happened, right? Like he comes home and yes. So I think that was all a stunt. I think that was all a stunt. Because remember, he was still deep in the whatever of it all. Or maybe that was maybe he broke. Maybe he really believed he just had a moment that wasn't him. And that might be it as well, right? Like I do think that there's talks of it being a second season. And I wonder if the second season would get deeper into that. He didn't have to stunt if the wife didn't know yet. So then this is the question as well, right? Like he didn't have to stunt if the wife didn't know yet. And also that he planned to run, and like the way he did it and that whole mixy messy thing, I think just spoke to some sort of like disassociation, right? Like, so maybe he's not a sociopath. Maybe he has like a split personality disorder. Again, not a doctor. Brianna Kristen said, I thought it was interesting that he was rubbing his eyes recounting the killing of his sister. It seemed as if he were trying to conjure emotion, aka stunt. Well, yeah, and the killing of his sister didn't call him off guard because he didn't even know that was going to come up. And then he had to be like, girl, it wasn't even a dog. That is empathy then. Then if he thinks that wasn't him, that means he was capable of the emotions people said wasn't there. Yeah, I didn't see how the lawyer saw anything in him. That means that he was capable of the emotions people say he wasn't. I have a thought, but for whatever reason, it's getting stuck in my mind. I think that the lawyer saw money. Yeah, the lawyer was just trying to collect her checks. This was not a passion project. I mean, she knew he did it from jump, which is why she said, you didn't hide the fucking weapon. Haley knew how to win, but she said, you didn't hide the fucking weapon. I can neither advise nor... What was the other word she said? He does look like a killer, but I do think that if Hugh Grant got on TV, people... it's a lot of killers walking free. You know what I'm saying? Conceal. And I like that spelling of it. Concealer. Yes, I knew it was a C word. She was like destroy or conceal. And then they not reading between the lines. Like, boo, she's telling y'all to do that. To do that very thing. But she can't tell you to do that. I was like, y'all are dense. I understood what she was saying the first time. This is the other thing, right? It was like, I think that there's a lot of like, I'm not a doctor, but I felt like his mental state was so fragmented because it's like, you go through such great care to remove the weapon from the crime scene, right? And that weapon was not easy to conceal. And the place you decide to hide it is at another family property when you passed 872,000 waterfalls, rivers, and lakes that you're used to, and you decide, where the best place for this would be? Let me take this to the family compound. Like, you know what I mean? Like a place associated with the family. And then when you get there, you don't even decide, let me dig a hole in the ground and bury it. Like, just so many other things. You're like, let me just stick it in this fireplace, this outdoor fireplace that's going to get used in 6 months. it's like, did he want to get caught? And it's like, so maybe he did have empathy, but he also had another illness, right? So maybe sociopathic. And then this was my other thing. The other thing, and I get part of it, obviously, the mother, his mother must have reached out because she saw her son in the media is on trial for murder, et cetera, et cetera. But like, sis, you think your son is a fucking sociopath, excuse me. You don't think that's something to tell me before we get married? And then especially once I have his baby, even if you're estranged, you don't think that's something to say like, let me just pull you to one side. I know he don't want you talking to me. You could do with this what you will, but I just don't want it on my head that nobody told you. We think he's responsible for his sister's death. You know, bad shit happens. We was gonna let him live with that, but then he don't give a fuck. And so now we think that maybe he did it on purpose. Like, I just think that that was so bizarre to me that like, and so now you want to call me out the blue when my computer just happens to be open, but not asleep. What computer was that? Also, I was like, what computer and what program is that? That is like, excuse me, very Wendy Williams of me. You know what I mean? The computer is open and it just comes through. I don't have that program, you know, but I thought that was interesting. So that was another issue I had with it. Elena was weird as hell. My other question was Elena's husband. Would y'all? I thought Nicole came and reached out to her. Okay, maybe she did. As y'all can tell, as I do with most things that I'm binging, I'm watching 90% of the time, and then the other 10% of the time, I'm just somewhere else. But she called Nicole back. If that's the case, she called her back. But I'm saying she still didn't tell her that. And she's like, the last time we spoke was the wedding. That's some shit you pulled me aside before the wedding. And Nicole was like, I sent you pictures of the kid or whatever. But would Elena's husband be a bad person? This is probably worth the episode all to itself as we're drawing to a close here. Would Elena's husband be a bad person if he put that baby up for adoption? What do y'all think? And just for clarity, in case you, like me, missed part of it, Elena married a man, was pregnant, turned out the baby wasn't his. She wound up getting married. The baby is an infant. So would that be a bad thing if he was like, you know what, this baby is no kin to me. I'm gonna try to get me a new wife and start over. I get that he also has another son. They had a son together. So that baby, while it's not his, that is Patricia said not one of those white people pronounced her name correctly. It was so authentic. They was definitely giving you all kinds of Elena, they was giving you all different interpretations of that. Like you said, very authentic. That shit was funny too when the Asian lady was talking about, I don't remember her name. She wasn't a major character, but she had some moments. And she was like, I told her we need more paper towels in the bathroom. They were already married with the kid, but that's not his kid. And he already said that he's struggling with loving it. And, you know, they were not living high on the hog. And then, you know what season 2 should be? Grace and Henry should take in the baby. But then that means Grace got to take in her husband's mistress baby. The older boy is his. I'm saying the younger boy, the little baby, the girl, is not any kin to Elena's husband. I wish I remembered his name. I want to say it was Luis, but I could be wrong. Or maybe that's the actor's name. Or maybe it was Felipe. I'm being racist. I'll stop. Miguel is his son. The little girl is not his child. And so I feel like he is not wrong for being like, I don't want to do this by myself and I shouldn't have to. However, that little girl is Miguel's sister. And so I think like if he were to give his son's sister up, that could create some. The families are always complicated, this one especially so. And then if Grace were to take it in, that little boy is Henry's brother. I mean, that little girl is Henry's sister, but that Grace has to take in her mistress's baby. I mean, her husband's mistress's baby, her husband's mistress who he killed violently, unnecessarily. But the idea that I had, oh, I made it seem like they got married after she got pregnant with a little girl. No, no, no. I think that's what makes it worse. That like this is an adult. It's not like, oh, you had a baby, whatever. It's like you cheated to make this baby. So this baby, aside from not being physically mine, this baby, um, re, uh, re, I can't find my words today. It resembles, it reflects, that's not the word I want to, but it is an emblem. It's a reminder. That's the word I was looking for, a reminder of your infidelity. The daddy and his crazy self has parental rights. But so no, this is the thing though. This is what season 2 should be about. Season 2 should be about Miguel y su padre, Miguel and his daddy, file a wrongful death lawsuit against Jonathan's family, and they come for Grace and all her fucking money. Season 2, I'm there. And they get, I don't know if they could get the black lady to be a lawyer. I don't know if that's like a conflict of interest. That's also doesn't seem like that's her area of the law. But what I think about that? I think that would be good. And then through this wrongful death lawsuit, we can find out even more things that bob and weave these people together, more undoing, more stuff. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? You can tap like if you agree, tap like twice if you disagree. So I think that would be really interesting. And I think that it would show us a different side of that. Maybe they get Lily Robb, her friend, to be the lawyer. Also, I guess they wanted to show just how charming he was, because I'm like, he had everybody fucking lying to Grace, her good friend. I don't know if people like that really have best friends. This was just Big Little Lies on the East Coast. I didn't watch Big Little Lies. Season 2 can just be rich Midwesterners at a fancy private school that a poor woman comes in their circle and a mystery murder happens. So you think it should just be like an anthology? Like you think this story is done? And so it's like, okay, if we want to bring back some of the same people, but the thing is, nobody in this damn show was American. And so I don't think they can nail. Some of them were struggling with these New York accents. Nicole Kidman, when she gets really emotional, the Australian leaps out. So I don't know that they can nail the Midwest. And like, so I'm, so they would have to just get an all new cast. I mean, which it can be like, there's other shows who have done that, like American Crime uses some of the same actors, but not all. So I think that could be interesting, but I guess I didn't like my story. Whatever, I'll take it to another network. But I just thought that would be interesting. It also shifts the tenor of the show though, right? Because this show is more so like psychological and thriller family. And so now we'll be making it like a, media and like all these other things. But I'm just curious as to like what the fuck happens back at school now, like when Henry, because the good thing is Miguel is set, like they ain't gonna never kick him out that school, and daddy ain't gonna never have to pay another penny. They gonna have to get a little girl a scholarship there too. The same thing that happened in Big Little Lies happened here, except it was West Coast rich people at a fancy school with a poor young girl and the mystery murder. Well, that's what I'm saying. The second season then takes the show in a different direction. So that it's not just Big Little Lies season 8. We're now exploring something different, but in the same universe. And we would still be able to see the same characters, because then I think the undoing becomes like Grace. And, we get to see how these rich white people are when they, how these rich white people are when their back is against the wall, or when, more importantly, when their money is threatened, right? Because it's like that, like we saw what happens when her romance or her love life is threatened, her family is threatened, but now what happens when their money is threatened? Min Bleak said, I'm all for season 2s, but this doesn't need a season 2. I feel very complete as well, but I just, in my research, I've read that they are contemplating season 2, not wedded to it, but also not adamantly against it. And I'm sure videos like this and all of the, all of the interaction that they've had on social is going to inspire them to think about how they could. So I'm just trying to help them out. Just trying to help you help yourself. But I feel complete on this. I kind of wanted him to jump off the bridge, and I think maybe part of the reason why he didn't jump off the bridge was because they want to leave doors open for stuff.